Hey everyone, welcome back to another AMAG Asks. Thanks for joining. I'm here today with the CEO of Telaeris, David Carta. David, thank you for joining.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
So we were just chatting before we got started, and I'll just admit, I had known of Telaeris for a while, ever since I was back on the integration side. I did not realize that you guys had been around since 2005. So we're approaching the 20-year mark here.
Yeah, next April we will have been in business for 20 years. And
well, congratulations.
It doesn't feel that long, but it's a pretty significant milestone. We're happy that business has been good for those 20 years.
Well, maybe this is one and the same, or maybe these are two different points or parts of discussion. Either way, it's fine. Maybe just for those who aren't familiar with the Telaeris journey, maybe starting kind of just starting there, David, how your team came about, what sort of needs you saw in the market, and kind of what it's evolved into.
It's been a lot of serendipity, and we've been blessed quite a bit along the way. In 2005, we started out as an RFID company, looking at radio frequency ID products. And I came with 20 years of background doing RFID solutions. My partners similarly were in the sales of RFID products. And it turned out that one of our early projects ended up working with security badges. And you don't usually think of a security badge as an RFID card, but once you get down to the nitty gritty, what's in one of these badges is really just an RFID card. Mm-hmm. One of our first customers was British Petroleum, and they had a remote parking problem. They had an access control system that protected their facility, but they didn't actually go out to the parking lot. So what we did is we put together it was basically an access control panel in a cart, and we tied it in with a Wi-Fi and cellular connection, and we punched through the firewall, and putting together all these different layers to have some way to authenticate at a remote parking lot. And it was obvious that this was actually a need. People needed to be able to use their badge to get in to access data permissions that you find in your access control system.
Sure.
Somewhere else in the world. And it could be at a remote parking lot, it could be at an event, it could be at a taco truck that you happen to be giving people access to at a day. So there's really hundreds of places that you can use a system. And what that led to is it led to us building first a kind of a Frankenstein piece of hardware that allowed you that had Wi-Fi and had a badge reader, and it was kind of the device was called the DSV2, and it was about the size of a Frisbee, but it had the ability to read all those different badges. And then as we kept moving in technology, and technology kept getting better, we pushed to basically a handheld device. Looks like more or less any cell phone, but we've built in the very specific RFID technologies needed to work with an access control system. And so we have two different pieces of technology that really enable us. Technology piece one is we have an RFID reader that we can customize, that we have built a very, very specific firmware that allows us to read basically any security badge, whether you're using the old proc standards or iClass, or somebody's using Legic, or they're using Desfire, or whatever these, or your new mobile credentials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever types of credentials, we are now able to read that using our handheld device. And the other piece of our magic is in we call it our data manager piece. And what this does is it allows us to connect to systems like Symmetry that have all of your access control data. Because what you really don't want to do is you don't want to have two systems of records where you have to enter data. So what we've built a system that pulls every bit of data that you have in Symmetry in terms of your pictures, in terms of your name, in terms of your permissions, in terms of all your badges, everything you could possibly need. And it's now in a handheld. So you've got effectively your two door readers. You've got your in reader, you tap it. There's your out reader. So you just tap it in between the two. You have your card, and you just present your card. And the big benefit of this over a door reader is now you can actually identify this person. If I were to present this card, a guard would only see red or green on a door reader. But when you are presenting a card, the guard can say, you don't quite look like that picture. Let me investigate a little bit further. So we've basically remoted an access panel, a couple card readers, wireless connection technology, the ability to read any badge, including mobile credentials, into a nice ruggedized handheld device that can be used for literally hundreds of different purposes.
Yeah, I think so. So first of all, thanks for the history lesson. That's really, I'm sure there's a separate conversation with a longer form discussion where we could talk about lessons learned along the way and what it's like kind of building a company around an idea. And so again, congratulations to now coming up on that incredible 20-year milestone. I'm familiar with the product, seen it plenty of times. I think probably like a lot of people, I immediately go to the obvious applications, right? Mustering, or maybe you've got those outdoor scenarios where you're remote, so it needs to be a handheld device for people who are validating or verifying, I should say, credentials remotely. Maybe something that would be interesting to talk through, because you mentioned hundreds of applications, is where are you seeing the need kind of expand into now? I think now that you've sort of established a nice customer friendly form factor that's not a Frankenstein, right? Where it's more applicable for other applications. What else are you seeing? Where are you seeing some uptick where maybe you didn't even originally expect it?
Some of the really interesting things, companies say they want to have an event, and they rent out a ballroom, and they want to be able to only allow their employees with a guest to get in. How do you validate that? How do people, and having something that can validate that, or you have limited guests to get into, limited tickets to get drink tickets. This is something that I would have never thought, but there are places where you want to be able to control food, drink. You're issuing resources based on your card. So, and that was kind of surprising, because it's not something that I actually expected. As you said, mustering is really kind of an obvious solution, because people's safety is at risk. So people are mandated to use systems to track occupancy. Other places that we're seeing a lot of new adoption, which is really kind of fascinating, is the university setting. And universities, they use their badge for everything. They use it for getting into buildings. They use it for their food programs. They use it for evacuation. They use getting into on-campus events. So, and interestingly, the university settings are driving all of the credential, all the information that used to be on this card is now on your cell phone, and that's something I didn't see coming, and because that's happening right now and it's happening at such a fast rate, my expectation is that we're going to be seeing in a probably just a couple years, all these university students are going to enter the workforce and they're going to be used to using their cell phone for everything. About security, about safety, about events, about food delivery, everything. So I imagine being able to authenticate that mobile credential is going to be it's going to be the next thing that is going to drive access control. It's going to drive the back end systems. And for us having a way to validate those credentials from a mobile device is really key.
Well, you actually answered, I think, but I'll let you add on if there's anything else. What my next question was, which is, where do you think we're going? But it sounds like that. I'll let you expand if you like.
There's actually another thing that's kind of interesting. So this solution is a handheld solution, but it doesn't work all by itself. We have to have a bit of middleware in the middle of the system that allows us to connect back into Symmetry to get that data. And I don't know the full extent of what AMAG is doing right now in terms of their product offering and where they're going in the future. But everybody is also talking about web enabling of the systems, making sure that they've got a web front end. And does that data exist only within the corporate network, or do you have it on the cloud where everybody has access to it? And there's all sorts of privacy issues that come in because companies don't want to have their employee information on the World Wide Web. They want to be in control, and for good reason. So trying to marry these requirements for convenience, make things web accessible, trying to make things phone accessible with corporate policies it's kind of a neat balance. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be one of the defining challenges that we have in the security industry. How do we have web accessible infrastructure for security, for safety, for anything that you want to manage with regards to your employees, but have it so that it's only intra-corporate network, but it's outside when you need it, which in an emergency, if you're looking at if you have a fire and you only know the 5 people in your facility, if you're inside the corporate facility that's burning down, what do? So we're living in really exciting times, trying to figure out they're less technical problems, but they're business issues that we need to come up with solid answers that meet our customers where they are in terms of needing convenience, but also needing safety, but also needing security, but also needing it to work the way they like to work.
And I think what's refreshing about where we are now, as opposed to where we were 20 years ago, is from an end user perspective or a practitioner perspective, from an integrator perspective, those conversations are much more approachable. There was a time when this is how we do things, these are our standards, don't deviate from them. What I'm finding, and it sounds like, David, maybe you are as well, is we're coming together as a group of collectives to solve a business challenge with the understanding that there are elements of the equation that we need to consider on both sides, right? Whether it's, privacy, or it's security, or it's flexibility. And the technology is very much there at this point. It's really, how do you have a good steward to shepherd the conversation?
And how do you implement it in ways that are not only secure, but supportable and protected from bad actors? Because unfortunately, as soon as you push things out to a cell phone and you have a web accessible back end, there's a lot of bad actors out there that are they're getting into these systems not through the front door, but through social engineering. So it's a matter of the implementation and making sure the implementation is done in a safe and secure manner.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Well, it feels very much like we could do this all day, because it's certainly a really exciting conversation and absolutely a very dynamic time in our industry. But really appreciate the time today, David, and for talking us through a little bit where Telaeris is, and certainly where you're headed. So thank you very much for being a great AMAG partner.
Kyle, I really appreciate it. AMAG it's great to work with, and it's one of our premier integrations, and we love the fact that you guys work so well with us in terms of helping us enable your customers to have better solutions. And it's always a joy to work with people like that.
Awesome. I appreciate you. Have an awesome day.